Chosen one, pay attention to the heavy fog sitting right behind your eyes and that strange, tight restlessness in your chest at this exact moment. That is not just exhaustion from a long day. That is targeted spiritual interference. Earlier today, a fleeting thought crossed your mind. You thought to yourself, I just cannot keep fighting like this anymore. I am too tired. Heaven heard that exact sigh, but the enemy heard it too. And the reason this message bypassed every distraction to reach you tonight is that the enemy is planning to use your physical and mental drain to make you quietly forfeit a massive shift scheduled for tomorrow morning. He wants you to go to sleep confused, feeling disconnected, or tempted to make an impulsive, permanent decision based on temporary exhaustion. This is a tactical briefing, and it cannot wait until sunrise. I do not need you to type anything, click anything, or even move a muscle. I just need you to mentally lock the doors of your mind right now. Take a deep spiritual breath and align your internal frequency with my voice. Because tomorrow everything shifts, but only if you survive the unseen ambush of tonight. Listen closely. I need you to stay with me until the very end of this message. Do not let your heavy eyes or your wandering thoughts pull you away. If you stay until the end, you are going to receive the exact 3-step midnight protocol to secure your mind before you sleep. You will discover how to identify the 3 unseen assassins attacking your thoughts right now, and most importantly, you will receive the key to restoring your divine frequency so you wake up activated, not defeated. The enemy wants you to click away and go to sleep unprotected. Deny him that victory. Stay anchored here. Right now, you are feeling a specific kind of tired. It is not the normal tiredness that comes from physical labor. It is a draining, heavy sensation at the base of your skull. It is a mental fog that makes it hard to string a coherent prayer together. You might even feel a subtle throbbing at your temples, a quiet sign that stress and spiritual warfare are flooding your nervous system. You keep asking yourself why everything feels so incredibly heavy tonight. Why do you feel so isolated, even if there are people in the next room? Why do your current problems feel completely unsolvable right now? You need to understand that this exhaustion is not strictly biological. It is a manufactured frequency. The enemy knows he cannot destroy you with a massive crisis because your faith is too strong for that. You have survived fires, storms, and betrayals. You are immune to obvious, direct attacks. So, he changed his strategy. His new strategy is exhaustion. He is wrapping a heavy, confusing frequency around your mind, hoping you will just drop your sword out of sheer fatigue. He wants you to wake up tomorrow so drained that you cannot walk through the new door God is opening. There is a profound mystery hidden in the ancient scriptures about what happens after the sun goes down. Most people read the Bible and think the word night just means the time when we sleep. But the original Hebrew word for night is Laila. Laila does not just mean a lack of sunlight. The root of this ancient word implies something that twists, something that wraps around you, a folding or a turning away from the light. The ancients understood that Laila, the night, is a spiritual entity and a specific atmosphere. It is an environment where your logical defenses go to sleep and the unseen realm becomes much louder. This is exactly why your anxieties always magnify at 2 in the morning. This is why the urge to quit, the urge to send that destructive text message, or the urge to panic about your finances always hits you when the house is completely silent. The enemy operates in the frequency of Laila. He waits until your biological clock is craving rest, and then he twists your thoughts. He wraps a blanket of doubt over the exact promises God gave you in the broad daylight. You are not losing your mind, chosen one. You are simply experiencing the twisting frequency of Laila. And the fact that you are feeling it so intensely tonight is absolute proof that something monumental is scheduled for your tomorrow. The resistance is always highest right before the release. So I want you to do something right now in the quiet of your own mind. You do not need to speak it aloud or lift a hand. I just want you to visualize a massive, impenetrable wall of blinding light slamming down around your bedroom. Picture every anxious thought, every doubt about your future, every fear about your calling bouncing off that light and evaporating into nothing. In your mind, declare the word secured. Just that one word, secured. You are drawing a boundary in the spirit. You are refusing to let the twisting frequency of the night dictate your tomorrow. You are taking back your mental airspace. I am going to show you exactly how to break this interference before midnight, but first, you need to realize what you have actually been surviving for the past few months. Because the reason you are so exhausted tonight is not what you think. You are not tired because your faith is failing. You are tired because you have been the strong one for everyone else in your life for entirely too long. Think about your actual daily reality. Think about the hidden moments nobody else sees. Sitting in your car in the driveway for 10 extra minutes, just staring blankly at the dashboard before walking into the house, because you need just a tiny fraction of time where nobody needs anything from you. Think about how you expertly fix everyone else, US problems, offer the best advice, and act as the emotional anchor for your family or your workplace, all while completely hiding your own internal panic. You are the pillar. You are the one people call when their world is falling apart. But when your world feels like it is crumbling, you look around and realize your contact list is entirely empty. There is no one for the strong one to lean on. You have been carrying a psychological, financial, and spiritual weight that was never meant for one pair of shoulders. You have been functioning in survival mode for so many consecutive seasons that your nervous system does not even know what peace feels like anymore. And the enemy is using that exact bone-deep exhaustion tonight to whisper a toxic lie into your spirit. He is trying to make you feel like heaven has completely abandoned you to figure this out all by yourself. But why would the Creator allow this? Why would God place such a massive, undeniable calling on your life, give you such a highly sensitive and discerning spirit, and then leave you to fight these brutal battles in what feels like complete isolation? Why does it feel like you have to bleed and scrape for every single inch of progress, while other people who do not even care about spiritual things, just seem to effortlessly glide through life? There is a very specific, profound reason you have been kept in this pressure cooker of isolation. It is not an accident, and it is certainly not a punishment. It has everything to do with what happens to a chosen vessel when they reach the absolute end of their human strength. To understand exactly what is happening to your mind tonight, we have to look at one of the most powerful yet deeply misunderstood moments in ancient scripture. It is the story of the prophet Elijah. Elijah was not a weak man. He was a spiritual powerhouse. He had just called down literal fire from the sky on Mount Carmel. He defeated hundreds of false prophets single-handedly. He experienced one of the greatest, most public spiritual victories recorded in history. But you need to pay very close attention to what happened the very next day. The moment the adrenaline faded, the moment the spiritual high wore off, a single death threat came his way from Queen Jezebel. And Elijah, the great prophet of fire, completely broke. He ran into the wilderness, collapsed under a broom tree, and prayed for God to just take his life. He looked up at the sky and said, "I have had enough. Lord, take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." Does that sound familiar to you? Does that sound like the fleeting thought that crossed your mind earlier today? I just cannot keep fighting like this. I am too tired. Elijah was not experiencing a lack of faith. He was experiencing absolute, crushing, biological, and spiritual burnout. He was the strong one who finally hit the wall. The sensory overload of spiritual warfare had completely drained his physical body. But look at how the Creator responded. God did not rebuke Elijah for his exhaustion. He did not send fire from heaven to punish him for wanting to quit. He did not tell him to pray harder, fast longer, or stop complaining. Instead, God sent an angel to give him baked bread, water, and told him to sleep. God let him rest, because the Creator knew something that Elijah did not. The wilderness was not a punishment. The broom tree was not the end of his calling or the cancellation of his anointing. It was the forging fire of his endurance. This is exactly why you have been kept in isolation. This is why the battles have been so relentless, so quiet, and so deeply personal. God has been doing a deep, structural work inside of you. Raw ore must be put into a blazing furnace to become hardened steel. You are not being punished by the universe, you are being conditioned by the divine. God has been stretching your internal capacity so that you can hold the massive weight of the glory and the responsibility He is about to pour out on your life. The fact that you are still standing tonight is a miracle. The fact that you have not completely walked away from your faith, even when you felt entirely abandoned, proves that the divine conditioning worked. You did not break under the pressure. You bent. You cried in the shower where no one could hear you. You sat in your car in silence. You felt the agony of the weight, but you did not quit. You have been forged in the fire of isolation, and you have survived the pressure cooker. I want you to do something for me right now. I want you to take a slow, deep breath in, and as you exhale, I want you to mentally release the immense guilt of being tired. You are officially allowed to be exhausted. In your mind, I want you to visualize that heavy iron armor you have been wearing all day, the armor of the strong one, unbuckling and crashing heavily to the floor. You do not have to hold the world together in this exact moment. If your spirit feels the relief of this truth, I want you to drop a comment below saying, "I release the heavy armor." Use those exact words to physically register this mental surrender into the atmosphere. You have carried everyone else for long enough. The wilderness was brutal, but it did its job perfectly. You survived the silence, you survived the betrayal, you survived the waiting room. God has seen your unwavering faithfulness in the dark, and He has recorded every single tear you shed when you thought nobody was watching. You passed the endurance test. So yes, you survived the endurance test. You passed. But here is the terrifying truth that the enemy is banking on tonight. That endurance test was just a distraction for the real test. While you were so focused on surviving the storm, proving your faithfulness, and taking hit after hit without giving up, you completely missed the actual trap being set for you at the finish line. God was watching your endurance, yes, but the enemy was using that long, drawn-out season of waiting to drain your cognitive reserves. He wanted to exhaust you so thoroughly that when the door finally opened, you would not have the mental capacity to walk through it. I need to ask you a question, and I need you to be brutally honest with yourself in the quiet of your own mind right now. What is the real test you are facing tonight? It is not about whether you can wait another day. The real test is much darker, much more complex, and much more uncomfortable to admit. Think about your patterns over the last few years. Why is it that whenever a genuine opportunity finally appears, whenever a relationship actually feels safe and healthy, or whenever you are standing inches away from the very breakthrough you have been fasting, crying, and praying for, you suddenly feel an overwhelming urge to run away? Why do you have this sudden, inexplicable tendency to want to give up, burn the bridge, or destroy the opportunity right before the finish line? You have done it before. You start overthinking a perfectly good situation until you find a fatal flaw. You isolate yourself when you should be reaching out and networking. You convince yourself that a blessing is actually a trap, a trick, or too good to be true, so you push it away to protect yourself. You sit there in your room, looking at the answered prayer on the horizon, and instead of feeling overwhelming joy, your stomach ties itself into knots. You feel a cold dread washing over your chest. You feel like an imposter. This is the shadow side of being a chosen one that nobody talks about from the pulpit. You feel incredibly guilty about this internal reaction. You think to yourself, what is wrong with me? I begged the Creator for this promotion. I cried out for this divine connection. I prayed for years for this financial shift. And now that it is physically manifesting in my reality, my first instinct is to hide under the covers. You think your faith is broken. You think you are ungrateful. You think God is angry at you for hesitating. Let me tell you a secret that will completely shatter how you view your own mind tonight. You are not running away because you lack faith. You are doing it because a massive part of you is absolutely terrified of the blessing. I know that sounds contradictory, but hear me out. You are not afraid of failure anymore. You have failed, you have lost, you have hit rock bottom, and you have had your heart broken so many times that failure is deeply familiar to you. You know how to survive in the wilderness. You have mastered the art of endurance in the dark. You know how to budget with nothing. You know how to encourage yourself when no one else is around. And you know how to operate in a state of constant crisis. What you are truly terrified of is success. Think about the ancient Israelites. They cried out for deliverance from slavery for hundreds of years. They begged God to save them. But the moment they were actually brought out of Egypt, standing in the wilderness with the promised land and total freedom right in front of them, what did they do? They panicked. They complained. They literally begged to go back to their chains. Why? Because the chains were familiar. Slavery was brutal and agonizing, but it was predictable. Freedom required responsibility. Freedom meant they had to step into the unknown. Freedom meant they had to govern themselves and fight new battles. This is the exact psychological warfare happening in your mind right now. You have been crying out for deliverance, but now that the chains are breaking, your subconscious is terrified of the unfamiliar territory of freedom. You are looking at the new level God is calling you to, and a loud voice in your head is whispering, what if I get this blessing and I completely ruin it? What if I am not actually ready to lead? What if this new level requires a version of me that I do not know how to be yet? Blessing brings visibility. Visibility brings intense scrutiny. Responsibility brings massive, crushing pressure. And pressure is exactly what you just spent the last 5, 10, or 15 years trying to escape from. Let us talk about the crown, the anointing, the mantle you have been given. You have watched other people get blessed prematurely in your lifetime. You have watched people get the money, the platform, the title, the spouse, and you watched them crash spectacularly because they could not handle the weight of it. You watched success turn people into arrogant, unrecognizable, corrupted versions of themselves. And deep in your subconscious shadow, in the places you do not even admit to yourself, you are terrified of becoming one of those people. You are terrified that if you step into this massive calling tomorrow, you might fail publicly instead of privately. If you sabotage it yourself right now, tonight, at least, you are in control of the pain. If you destroy the opportunity before it begins, you do not have to face the terrifying unknown of being wildly successful and having thousands of people depend on you. But I need you to understand something profoundly important tonight. I need you to hear this in your spirit. This fear you are feeling, this hesitation that is making your chest tight, it is not a sign of weakness. It is absolute proof of your wisdom. The people who crash and burn under the weight of divine blessing are the people who grab it with zero fear. They are the fools who think the crown is just a shiny hat to show off to their enemies, completely unaware of how heavy the gold actually is. You are terrified because you actually understand the weight of the crown. You know that true anointing costs everything. You know the principle that to whom much is given, much is required. Your fear is simply your deep awareness of the magnitude of your calling. It proves that you respect the assignment. It proves you are the right person for the job. So the real test tonight, the final exam that the enemy desperately hoped you would fail in the dark, is this. Can you stop self-sabotaging? Can you look at the terrifying, massive, heavy blessing God is handing you, acknowledge exactly how much it scares you, and still refuse to drop it? Can you override the trauma response that tells you to run away from good things just because they are unfamiliar? I want you to do a profound mental exercise with me right now. Do not move your physical body. Just quiet your mind, breathe deeply, and visualize this moment. Imagine that you are standing in a massive, empty throne room. In front of you, resting on a pedestal, is the exact blessing, the exact calling, the exact answered prayer you have been waiting for your entire life. It is heavy. It is glowing with a brilliant, intimidating light. Now, pay attention to your body. Do you feel the urge to step back? Do you feel the instinct to say, "I am not ready, please give it to someone else"? I want you to take a deep, spiritual breath. Draw the air in slowly, and as you exhale, I want you to mentally step forward. In your mind, reach out and place both of your hands firmly on that blessing. Feel the immense, terrifying weight of it. Do not shrink back. Mentally declare to the atmosphere, "I accept the weight of my calling. I will not destroy what heaven is building." If you are in a safe place to do so, leave a comment right now saying, "I accept the weight." Use those exact words to draw a line in the sand. You have passed the true test. You have officially broken the cycle of self-sabotage. But listen closely. You are not sabotaging yourself because your spirit is weak. You are doing it because your biological brain is literally trapped in the wrong frequency. And there is a scientific, deeply spiritual reason why you cannot just pray away this brain fog. Your biological brain is a receiver. Think of it like a highly advanced, biological radio antenna designed by the Creator to pick up divine signals. When you feel that heavy brain fog, that confusion, and that overwhelming exhaustion we talked about, it is not because God has stopped speaking to you. It is because the receiver inside your head has been forcibly tuned to the wrong station. You are trying to hear the voice of the divine, but your biological instrument is jammed with static. And there is a very deliberate, hidden reason why your brain is currently stuck in this exhausting frequency. To understand the invisible war being waged against your mind tonight, we have to ask a profound question. What secret did the ancient spiritual masters know that we have completely forgotten? Think about the great prophets, the mystics, the individuals who walked the earth thousands of years ago with absolute clarity. Think about Moses on Mount Sinai, Elijah in the cave, or Paul in the desert. They did not walk around with the chronic anxiety, the brain fog, and the constant second-guessing that you experience daily. They had a direct, unclouded line to the Creator. They received massive, world-changing revelations, and they moved with absolute certainty. For centuries, religious traditions have told us they achieved this simply because they were more holy or because they prayed harder. But the truth is much deeper and much more mechanical. The ancient masters knew how to physically alter the state of their minds. They engaged in deep periods of isolation, fasting, and rhythmic chanting, not just as religious duties, but as precise methods to shift their biological receivers into a very specific state of being. Fast forward thousands of years to our modern era, where spirituality and science finally intersected. What did modern science, specifically researchers connected to NASA, discover that perfectly aligns with what these ancient mystics were doing? A former NASA neuroscientist was involved in a massive study looking at the creative and problem-solving capabilities of human beings. They studied children, and what they found was absolutely staggering. They discovered that 98% of children operate at a level of creative genius. They have boundless imagination, deep intuition, and an almost magical ability to learn and connect with the world around them. But when they followed those same children into adulthood, that number dropped to a shocking 2%. The genius was gone. The deep connection was severed. What the researchers discovered was that the difference between the 98% of connected children and the 2% of connected adults came down to brain waves. Specifically, the presence of theta and gamma waves. When your brain is producing theta waves, you are in a state of deep intuition, super learning, and profound spiritual connection. It is the doorway to the subconscious. Gamma waves are the highest frequency, associated with moments of sudden insight, peak focus, and the feeling of being completely one with the universe. This combination of theta and gamma is literally the frequency of genius. It is the God frequency. This is exactly what the ancient mystics were accessing. When they retreated to the mountains or the deserts for 40 days, they were stripping away the noise of the world and naturally dropping their brain waves out of the stress state and plunging deep into the theta and gamma states. They were tuning their biological radios to the exact frequency where heaven broadcasts its highest revelations. They accessed the universal frequency, the exact state where miracles, sudden breakthroughs, and profound peace become your normal reality. Now, look at your life today. Why are you stuck in the wrong frequency? Why do you have brain fog instead of theta waves? Because the modern world, the matrix you live in, is meticulously designed to suppress your natural genius. From the moment you wake up, you are bombarded with artificial blue light, alarm clocks, negative news cycles, financial stress, and the endless demands of society. This constant barrage of micro-traumas forces your brain into a state of high beta. Beta waves are the waves of survival, stress, and fight or flight. You cannot hear the voice of God when your brain is screaming in high beta. The enemy does not need to possess you. He just needs to keep society moving so fast and keep you so stressed that your brain physically shrinks its ability to produce the God frequency. It is an intentional, biological dumbing down of the chosen ones. Society forces you to live in beta, which is why you feel so disconnected, so tired, and so heavily attacked at night. But here is the revelation that changes everything for you tonight. Your ability to access that genius state, that divine theta frequency, is not dead. It is simply dormant. It has been suppressed, but it has not been destroyed. And because you live in the modern world, you do not have the luxury of disappearing into a desert cave for 40 days to get it back. You need a way to bypass the noise of the matrix right now, in the middle of your chaotic life. This is why a specific sound technology was developed, rooted in that very neuroscientific research. It is a tool designed to do exactly what the ancient fasts and deep meditations did, but it does it through the science of brainwave entrainment. There is a specific, highly calibrated audio activation known as the genius wave. It is not a magical pill, and it is not just soothing music. It is a precise acoustic frequency designed to gently guide your brain out of the chaotic, stressful beta state and safely lower you back into the theta and gamma states. It restores the God frequency inside your biological receiver. The most beautiful part about this is the profound ease of it. The enemy wants you to believe that spiritual breakthrough requires you to exhaust yourself even more. But this requires zero strenuous effort. It is a 7-minute ritual. You do not have to learn complex meditation techniques, and you do not have to force your mind to go blank, which we both know is impossible when you are under attack. You simply listen. By tuning into this specific audio technology for 7 minutes a day, you are literally washing away the artificial beta programming of the matrix and reactivating the dormant genius potential you were born with. You are turning the dial of your biological radio back to the station where the Creator is speaking clearly. I want you to perform a mental action right now to solidify this shift. Do not move your hands. In your mind's eye, I want you to visualize an old, static-filled radio dial. Hear the harsh, buzzing noise of the static. That is your current stress. Now, mentally, reach out and turn that dial smoothly to the right. As you turn it, imagine the static fading away completely, replaced by a deep, resonant, crystal-clear tone that vibrates peacefully in your chest. You are making the decision to tune in. If you feel that shift in your spirit, leave a comment right now saying, "I am tuning in." Use those exact words to declare that you are no longer available for the frequency of chaos. You now understand the science of your spiritual fog, and you know that the ancient connection is fully available to you through this sound technology. Now that you have the tool to retune your frequency, you need to know exactly how to use it tonight. Because if you do not apply this specific 3-step protocol before you sleep, the enemy will still find a way to hijack your morning. The Midnight Protocol is not just a suggestion for better sleep. It is a tactical spiritual tourniquet designed to stop the bleeding of your energy and protect the timeline of your blessings. There are 3 specific steps to this protocol, and you must apply them tonight. But before I give you the mechanics of how this works, I need to tell you what happened to someone who was sitting in your exact position just 6 months ago. This was a chosen one whose energy signature was identical to yours right now. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. They were sitting on the edge of their bed in the dark, entirely consumed by a heavy, suffocating fog of frustration. The glow of their phone screen was the only light in the room. They had just spent the last hour drafting a long, blistering resignation email to their boss. They were exhausted, they felt entirely unappreciated, and the isolation whisper in their head was screaming that they needed to burn the bridge immediately to protect their dignity. It was a masterpiece of justified anger. Their thumb was literally hovering over the send button. The enemy had successfully convinced them that their temporary emotional exhaustion was actually spiritual intuition. This is the greatest trick of the unseen realm. The enemy loves to use your justified anger to orchestrate your own self-sabotage. He makes suicide missions feel like righteous vindication, but right before their thumb pressed that button, they remembered the protocol. The first step of the Midnight Protocol is what we call the cognitive freeze. This is a non-negotiable mental law you must establish tonight. You must make a legally binding agreement with your own spirit that you will never make a permanent decision based on a temporary midnight emotion. When the clock strikes 10, your biological brain enters a state of fatigue where logic shuts down and the survival brain takes over. Any major decision, any angry text message, any life-altering conclusion you come to after midnight is a decision co-authored by the enemy. The cognitive freeze means you literally tell your racing thoughts, "We are not solving this tonight. We are freezing the operation." You place the problem in a mental holding cell until the sun comes up. That is exactly what this person did. They pulled their thumb away from the screen. They put the phone face down on the nightstand. They initiated the freeze. But freezing the mind is not enough, because the anxiety will just keep eating at you in the dark. You have to actively change the channel. This brings us to the second step of the protocol, the frequency shift. You cannot fight a spiritual frequency with your willpower. You have to override it with a higher frequency. This person reached for their headphones and activated the exact 7-minute sound technology we just talked about. They laid back and let the acoustic frequencies flood their auditory cortex. I want you to imagine what happens in the brain during those 7 minutes. Minute 1, the mind is still raging, still defending its right to be angry. Minute 3, the chest stops heaving. The shallow breathing naturally slows down as the audio begins to coax the brain out of the chaotic beta state. Minute 5, the artificial urgency simply evaporates. The fog lifts. The brain waves synchronize into the deep, peaceful theta state. They did not have to pray a 3-hour warfare prayer. They just surrendered to the frequency. By minute 7, they were asleep. Now, let me tell you what happened the next morning. They woke up, feeling completely detached from the anger of the night before. They opened their phone, looked at the draft of that resignation email, and immediately deleted it. They went to the office. At 11 in the morning, the CEO called them into a private meeting. They were not called in to be reprimanded. They were called in because the exact manager who had been making their life a living hell had been suddenly relocated that very morning. And the CEO was offering this chosen one the vacant executive position, complete with a massive promotion and double their previous salary. Do you see the terrifying reality of what almost happened? The monumental blessing was already scheduled for 11 in the morning. Heaven had already orchestrated the promotion, but the enemy knew the schedule. He knew he could not stop the CEO from offering the promotion, so he tried to use the exhaustion of the night before to trick the chosen one into quitting at 2 in the morning. If they had sent that email, they would have aborted their own miracle. That is the power of freezing the emotion and retuning the frequency. You save yourself from destroying your own promised land. The third and final step of the protocol is the dawn guard. When you wake up tomorrow morning, your brain will naturally be hovering in that beautiful, creative theta state. The enemy will immediately try to yank you back into the beta stress frequency by tempting you to check your notifications, read the news, or remember your anxieties the second your eyes open. You must guard the first 15 minutes of your morning. Do not touch the matrix, hold the frequency. Let your spirit calibrate to the new day before you let the world demand your attention. I want you to do a mental exercise right now to lock this protocol in. Imagine a massive, heavy, steel vault door in your mind. I want you to mentally gather every single frustration you had today, every urge to quit, every feeling of being unappreciated, and throw them all inside that vault. Now, in your spirit, push that heavy steel door completely shut. Hear the heavy metallic click as it locks. You are freezing the operation. To seal this in the physical realm, leave a comment right now saying, "I am sealing my energy." Use those exact words to notify the unseen realm that you are officially off limits for the rest of the night. That protocol will seal your energy. But sealing your energy is only half the battle. You also need to recognize the weapons being formed against you. Tonight, the enemy will send 3 specific assassins to your mind. These are not physical threats. They are highly specialized spiritual algorithms, specifically designed to infiltrate your mind when your biological defenses are completely down. The enemy does not send these assassins during the day when you are alert, surrounded by people, and fully operating in your calling. He waits until the house is completely silent, your body is exhausted, and your mind is vulnerable. You must learn to identify their exact signatures, because the moment you recognize them, they lose their power over you. The first assassin is the memory hijack. Have you ever been lying in bed, right on the verge of falling asleep, and suddenly your brain violently drags up a memory from 5 years ago? It is always a memory of a mistake you made, a time you were deeply humiliated, a relationship you failed at, or a moment where you acted completely out of character. You physically cringe in your bed. You feel a sudden rush of heat to your face and a sickening drop in your stomach. You start obsessing over what you should have said or what you should have done differently. You need to understand that this is not a random misfire of your brain. This is a targeted sniper attack. The enemy is hijacking your memory to inject shame directly into your bloodstream. Shame is the lowest spiritual frequency in existence. If the enemy can make you feel intense shame at midnight, he can successfully rip your brain out of a peaceful state and drag it straight back into high beta, the frequency of stress and survival. When this assassin strikes, you do not argue with the memory. You do not try to justify what happened 5 years ago. You immediately recognize it as a hijack. In your mind, visualize a heavy iron door slamming shut on that specific thought. Then, you reach for your headphones. You use your 7-minute audio activation to act as an acoustic shield. You let the frequency wash away the artificial shame and force your brain waves back into the God frequency. You do not fight the memory with logic. You defeat it with frequency. The second assassin is the isolation whisper. This one is incredibly deceptive because it sounds exactly like your own inner voice. This assassin creeps in when the room is dark and the silence feels unbearably heavy. It starts whispering very specific, venomous lies into your spirit. It says things like, "Look at how much you sacrifice for everyone else, and look at how little they care about you." It tells you that your calling is a joke. It tells you that you are entirely alone in this battle, that God has forgotten your address, and that all your fasting and praying has been a complete waste of time. The isolation whisper thrives on self-pity. It wants to wrap you in a blanket of victimhood, because a chosen one who feels sorry for themselves is a chosen one who has dropped their sword. The only environment where this whisper can survive is an empty, unguarded silence. You defeat this assassin by refusing to give it the silence it needs. When the whisper starts, you do not entertain the conversation. You do not list the reasons why you are lonely. You break the silence. You activate your 7-minute ritual and flood your auditory cortex with the theta frequency. You fill the room with a vibration that the enemy cannot tolerate. As the audio realigns your brain waves, the whisper is literally drowned out by the frequency of divine connection. The third and most dangerous assassin is the counterfeit urgency. This is the ultimate trap for the strong one. This assassin does not attack you with sadness. It attacks you with a sudden, violent spike of false adrenaline. It is 3 in the morning, and suddenly your chest is tight, your heart is racing, and you feel an overwhelming, terrifying conviction that you have to fix a massive problem right this exact second. You feel like if you do not figure out your entire financial plan for the next 5 years right now, you are going to be ruined. You feel like you have to send a confrontational message immediately to protect your boundaries. The enemy creates a massive illusion of an emergency to force you into a premature, panicked reaction. He wants you to act out of character. He wants you to make a permanent decision while you are sleep-deprived and operating in the frequency of fear. You must write this rule on your heart tonight. The divine creator will never, ever push you into a corner and force you to make a panicked decision in the middle of the night. True spiritual urgency comes with profound peace. Counterfeit urgency comes with an accelerated heart rate and a tight throat. When this assassin strikes, you apply the cognitive freeze we discussed earlier. You tell your racing mind, "We are not solving this tonight." You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the air fill the bottom of your lungs, and you mentally command your nervous system to stand down. You put your headphones on and let the 7-minute activation literally drain the false adrenaline out of your body. You use the sound technology to command your brain to exit the fight or flight mode. These 3 assassins will try to break you tonight, but there is one final boundary you must build to protect your mind, not just for tonight, but for the massive shift opening up tomorrow morning. To survive these assassins and protect your frequency, you must establish what we call the mental 3-circle rule. You cannot just blindly fight off attacks in the dark. You must proactively build a fortress around your spirit. Imagine your mind has 3 concentric circles. The outer circle is for observers, circumstances, and the noise of the world. The middle circle is for your allies, your daily responsibilities, and your trusted connections. But the inner circle, the absolute core of your being, is reserved strictly for the Creator and your divine destiny. The enemy relies on the darkness of midnight to blur these lines. He tries to take the anxieties of the outer circle, the opinions of people who do not even understand your calling, and violently shove them right into your inner circle. He wants your core to be chaotic. The mental 3-circle rule requires you to ruthlessly evict anything that does not belong in the center. When a toxic thought or a counterfeit urgency tries to enter your core tonight, you must mentally identify it, label it as an outer circle distraction, and forcibly push it out of your sacred space. Let me tell you how vital this boundary is by sharing what happened to a chosen one exactly 1 year ago. This person was lying in bed, absolutely paralyzed by fear. The massive shift they had prayed for, a literal open door to step into their ultimate life purpose, was scheduled to happen the very next morning. But instead of peace, they were experiencing crushing panic. The isolation whisper was screaming that they were a complete fraud. The memory hijack was replaying every single mistake they had ever made. The pressure was so incredibly heavy that they had their phone in their hand, ready to send a message to cancel the entire opportunity. They were fully prepared to reject their calling and hide, simply to make the intense psychological pain stop. Why does this happen to us? Why does the mind violently attack itself right before the miracle? Why is the night before the breakthrough always the darkest, most suffocating night of the entire journey? To understand this, we must look at the deepest, darkest night recorded in spiritual history. The Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus was only hours away from fulfilling his ultimate earthly destiny. The scriptures tell us that he was in such severe agony that he was sweating drops of blood. But you need to understand the original Greek language to grasp what was actually happening to him. The word used in the ancient text is agonia. Agonia does not just mean sadness. It does not just mean physical pain. In the ancient world, agonia was a specific athletic term. It described the intense, paralyzing, severe psychological pressure a wrestler felt right before the match began. It is the extreme tension of the build-up. It is the ultimate spiritual warfare of anticipation. Jesus did not sweat drops of blood while he was hanging on the cross. He sweat drops of blood in the garden, in the dark, in the waiting. The pressure right before you cross the threshold of your destiny is always more violent than the threshold itself. The enemy knows that if he can crush you with agonia in the garden, you will never make it to the resurrection. That tension in your chest right now, that heavy dread trying to convince you to give up, it is not a sign of failure. It is agonia. It is the divine tension of a spiritual warrior about to step onto the mat of their greatest victory. That chosen one from a year ago was experiencing pure agonia. But instead of surrendering to it, instead of sending that message to cancel their future, they applied the mental three-circle rule. They realized that the voices calling them a fraud were outer circle lies. They mentally evicted those lies from their core. They put down their phone, put on their headphones, and ran their 7-minute activation frequency. They used the sound technology to clear the agonia from their nervous system. They allowed the theta waves to override the panic. They fell asleep in perfect peace, and the next morning they walked through that open door and stepped into a calling that has since changed thousands of lives. They survived the garden, and they received the glory. You are in your own Garden of Gethsemane tonight. The pressure you feel is the agonia of your incoming glory. But you have the tools, you have the frequency, and you have the authority to push through it. I want you to feel the energy shifting in your physical body right now. Do not move your hands or change your posture. Just pay close attention to the center of your chest. Imagine a tight, heavy knot of dark tension sitting right over your heart. That is the agonia. That is the accumulated stress of the enemy trying to hold you back. Now, take a slow, powerful breath in through your nose. Imagine that breath acting like a warm, brilliant light, flowing directly into your chest and melting that tight knot completely. As you exhale slowly, imagine the tension leaving your shoulders, leaving your jaw, and pouring out of your body into nothingness. Feel the sudden, undeniable lightness. Feel the spiritual adrenaline of a warrior who just realized the enemy has completely run out of ammunition. If you feel that heavy tension breaking off of your chest right now, leave a comment below saying, "I evict the fear." Use those exact words to establish your inner circle and serve notice to the unseen realm. The agonia is over. The dawn is approaching. Do not move. Do not look away. It is time to officially seal this victory and activate your new frequency in the courts of heaven. Chosen one, the agonia is over. The dawn is approaching. Do not move. Do not look away. It is time to officially seal this victory and activate your new frequency in the courts of heaven. I need you to shift your internal posture right now. Do not move your physical body, but in your spirit, I want you to stand up straight. Lift your chin. You are no longer the exhausted victim of the night. You are a divine warrior receiving your tactical orders for the morning. Understand that this is not a common prayer. This is an activation ceremony. Something is shifting in the atmosphere of your room right now. The heavy fog has been replaced by a clean, electric charge of divine presence. Father God, in the mighty name of Yeshua, the King of Kings, we declare that this exact moment is a divine interception. We acknowledge that the spiritual airspace over this chosen one is now cleared of all interference. We thank you for their journey. You saw the tears they shed in the shower today. You saw them sitting in their car, unable to move, crushed by the weight of everyone else's expectations. You heard the isolation whisper, trying to convince them that they are forgotten. But tonight, that lie is dead. By the authority of the word, I officially seal the midnight protocol into your spirit. I seal your mind against the three assassins. I decree that the memory hijack is now bound and gagged. I decree that the isolation whisper is permanently muted. I decree that the counterfeit urgency is shattered and its false adrenaline is drained from your nervous system right now. I seal the mental three-circle rule around your core. Nothing from the outer circle shall penetrate your sacred space ever again. And I seal the activation frequency of the genius wave into your daily life. I declare that as you begin your 7-minute activation ritual tomorrow morning, your brain will lock into the theta frequency with absolute precision. I decree that the brain fog is evaporating, and in its place, God-given clarity and genius-level insight are flooding your consciousness. You will not miss your timeline. You will not sabotage your blessing. Within the next 24 hours, you will see the first physical evidence that the shift has occurred. Now, heaven is asking you a final question. Are you ready to stop fighting in your own strength and finally tune into the frequency of your Creator? If your spirit says yes, then say it out loud in your room right now. Say, I am ready. Say it with the authority of someone who knows who they are. I am ready. Heaven has recorded your agreement. Your defense is activated. The unseen ambush has failed. Go to sleep as a victor, because you are no longer available for the frequency of chaos. You are sealed. You are commissioned. You are chosen. Amen.